Hello everybody and welcome to another video with me, Matt Goddard from the Boxing Locker, and I am going to talk about a light heavyweight clash that is on the tip of everyone's tongue after the weekend's performance from Artur Beterbiev, the absolute machine that he is. Exceptional performance. We'll go into that in a little bit. Obviously, the fight that I'm talking about is Dmitry Bivol. This is a light heavyweight clash. This would make the winner of the fight undisputed. Bivol holds the WBA and the IBO. Beterbiev holds all the other belts, the IBF, WBC, WBO. Bivol is 22-0 with 11 knockouts. Beterbiev, with probably the most impressive record in boxing, is 20-0 with 20 knockouts. Now, comparatively, they are stylistically quite different. They both have impressive records with regards to the names on those records. Lots of undefeated or extremely positive recorded fighters. To name some of those, we've got Sullivan Barrera for Dmitry Bivol, Sullivan Barrera, Isaac Chilemba, Jean Pascal, Joe Smith Jr., who he beat unanimous decision, an opponent he shares with Beterbiev, Craig Spider Richards, Salamov, the big one, Saul Canelo Alvarez, obviously Canelo moving up in weight. Gilberto Ramirez, that was a good fight. And the most recent was Lyndon Arthur, a British guy, Lyndon Arthur, who probably was, I would say, outmatched, really. Anyway, so good record for Bivol. All wins, couple of really decent names in there. Beterbiev's record, demolitions. In his sixth fight, he beat Tavoris Cloud, which is crazy. Cloud was, I think, 20, must have been 20-2 at that point, something along those lines. Really close. Great fight for his sixth opponent. Then he had an absolute barnstormer with Callum Johnson. I remember, I believe he got dropped in the first or second round of that. Came back to stop Johnson, who was 17-0 at the time. Kaladze, Vosdik, Marcus Brown. Then the Joe Smith Jr. fight. Beterbiev obviously stopping Smith Jr. Followed by Anthony Yard. There was a really tough fight. Yard performed very well there and finished on the weekend with the demolition of Callum Smith. Lots of British names amongst those, which is a little bit disappointing for me. But there we have it. We have two Russian guys. Both had really good amateur careers. I think Beterbiev only lost something like 6 or 7 amateur fights out of 200 and something. Obviously, we know Beterbiev hurt, maybe even dropped Alexander Usyk in his amateur days. I don't know an enormous amount about Bivol's career, but as far as I'm aware, he was a very good amateur. So this is a really, really great fight, and a fight that, as with Crawford Spence, as with Inui Fulton, as with Inui Tapales, as with Fury Usyk that's been made now, these are fights that boxing needs, especially that boxing fans need. Boxing fans need to see the big names that they recognize boxing each other, and that then makes it more attractive, and also clears the way for the contenders to box each other and then get a more, I would say, a more obvious next in line and more obvious mandatory for each of the belts, for all of the belts, in fact. Obviously, sanctioning fees create problems there, and its governing bodies are a real issue in boxing. But we need more undisputed champions. It makes it easier to be a fan of the sport. It makes it easier to know what's happening. All these regular belts and interim and emeritus and all this rubbish. It's boring. Franchise champions. It's boring. It ruins the sport. It's convoluted and it makes it difficult. So we get Beterbiev and Bivol fighting. Obviously, the only place that can be held is in Riyadh. That Saudi money is talking the talk and it is walking the walk. Complaints about the atmosphere there. I mean, who cares? We're getting to see the fights that everybody wants to see. Don't worry about the atmosphere in the venue. Worry about the quality of the fight that you're watching. Now, how do I think this fight plays out? Now, Beterbiev, stylistically, is probably very well matched for Bivol if it's Beterbiev at his best. But what we've got to remember is Beterbiev is aging. He's had an awful lot of fights in his career. That does wear on a guy. He takes I wouldn't say he takes an enormous amount of punches clean, but he takes quite a lot of punches. He always ends up after fights bruised, sometimes cut, lots of marks on his face. Now he's got a fantastic bone structure. We know he's got a decent chin. Callum Johnson was an enormous puncher, and he couldn't put him away. But, he takes a lot of punches. He's been hit plenty. Does that mean he's going to do the same against Bivol, that he'll be hit lots against Bivol? I'm not sure. I think a lot of the blows that land on Beterbiev are quite glancing blows. He moves his head with shots. He throws his own shots, moving his head. And as with Gennady Golovkin, he has a real misrepresentation as a power puncher only. He's just going to walk you down and devastate you. But his boxing ability is fantastic. His jab is exceptional. And the way he moves his head with his jab, the way he defends as he jabs and moves his feet with his jab is absolutely sublime to watch. And if you really watch him in that Callum Smith fight, the jab is what made the difference. And this is a guy that is kind of credited as just a puncher. Now we know he lands a lot to the ears, to the back of the head, to high on the head. Same as Golovkin. Golovkin did the same thing. That kind of Eastern Bloc style does that. They land with the big knuckles high on the head. They've got really strong wrists and forearms, so they can afford to land to skull without doing so much damage to their wrists and their hands. And the style of their punching enables them to do that. Bivol is the same. The way he punches, lands with the big knuckles on his hooks. It's fantastic. It's a great skill to have. And if you're not getting warned for it, there is absolutely no reason for you to stop doing it. You're not breaking any rules unless you're told you are. Some of Beterbiev's punches are a bit risky. They are a bit close to the bone, but in the absence of referees intervening, all we can say is that the fighters boxing him need to be more aware of that being a risk and compensate accordingly. Dmitry Bivol, younger, more mobile. I would say he's more mobile in his style. Everything is a lot longer. He's great at maintaining range and distance. He is nowhere near the puncher that Beterbiev is, nowhere near the puncher. And I don't mean the one punch power. I mean that kind of concussive, non-stop, just every shot hurts kind of puncher, I don't think you can walk through Bivol because everything's nice and long and stiff, but equally, I don't think his punches will do the same level of damage to Beterbiev as Beterbiev's will the other way around. However, Bivol's face does mark up, but again, fantastic bone structure. They've got that Mongol steps kind of high, big cheekbones, strong square jaw, thick neck. It makes for very, very good punch resistance, as we're seeing with both guys. And it's therefore, in my opinion, far more likely to go to points and probably be Beterbiev's first fight that goes the distance. So that will therefore be interesting to see how Beterbiev performs really late down the stretch. However, I have a theory and a prediction that Bivol's success will be early in the fight, and Beterbiev will wear him down over time and have more success later in the fight. I think it'll be a fight of two halves. I think Beterbiev will be landing, but not necessarily having an enormous amount of impact early. Not that we can see anyway. I think he'll be getting to the body, landing high on the head as he always does, and just landing the odd jab here or there that goes straight down the pipe off that slip on the Bivol jab. Now, Bivol will have success, but no real impact. He won't be denting Beterbiev per se. And I think as such, what we're going to see is a very close points decision. I think it will lean in the favor of whoever has had the most impactful shots, the most visibly impactful. And I think it might just end up being a Beterbiev win. That being with Beterbiev, who is 100% fit, injury-free, and has had a really good camp for the fight. But look, this is a 50-50 fight if ever I've seen one. The balancing factors are merely down to nuance, like the ability to shift through gears, like volume of punching in terms of the damage that volume does, like 3 or 4 jabs around, who lands cleaner, like working to the body and the effect it has later down the line in fights, like the ability to maintain a mobile style as the fight progresses. You know, is Bivol going to have to slow down? And as such, will then Beterbiev be more susceptible or liable to catching him? So I'm going to say now Beterbiev by majority decision. That's my pick. But I would also not be surprised to see a Bivol win in the reverse. I don't think this is going to be a clear fight either way. I think it's going to be very close. And I think this will be one to really watch. I think it'll be a demonstration of some fantastic boxing, some real rugged fighting, and some spirit and courage shown. And this is a fight that I'm really, really looking forward to. So that's my prediction. Beterbiev, majority decision, over 12 to win all the belts in a very close fight, maybe 7-5, maybe 6-6 with Beterbiev dropping Bivol late. But either way, it's going to be fantastic. So there we have it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and please do check out the rest of my content. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you for the next one.